Today, we are diving deep into the work of Dr. Robert Cialdini, who's pretty much known as the godfather of ethical persuasion. His book, Influence, is the ultimate roadmap for understanding the psychology behind why we say yes, often without even thinking about it.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You walk out of a store or you hang up the phone after a call and you just kind of stop and think, wait, why did I agree to that? What just happened? It almost feels like your brain made the decision for you. Well, Cialdini's groundbreaking research shows it's not some kind of magic, it's just psychology. He found 6 universal principles of influence. Think of them as these powerful mental shortcuts, or triggers, that our brains use to make decisions quickly and efficiently. So, let's explore what they are.
We're going to organize these 6 principles into 3 main themes to make them super easy to remember. First up, we'll look at the principles based on our social obligations. Then, we'll get into the mental shortcuts we use on ourselves. And finally, we'll cover the principles that change how we perceive value.
All right, let's kick things off with the social obligation principles. These are all about the unwritten social rules that guide how we interact with each other, that deep-seated feeling of duty we have in our relationships. The very first principle is reciprocity. This is a huge one, and it's woven into pretty much every human society. We feel this powerful urge to give back to people who have given to us first. You know, if a coworker helps you out, you feel like you owe them one. And this feeling can be triggered by the tiniest, even unwanted gift.
And get this, look at this study. A waitress gives diners 1 mint with their bill. Tips go up by about 3%. Okay, now she gives 2 mints and tips jump up 14%. But here's the real kicker. She gives 1 mint, starts to walk away, then turns back and says, you know what? For you nice people, here's an extra one. Tips skyrocketed by 20%. It was that small, personalized, unexpected gesture that made all the difference.
Next up is a principle that seems almost too obvious: liking. But don't underestimate how powerful this is. We are just so much more likely to say yes to people we know and, well, like. And the things that really drive this are stuff like finding someone attractive, getting a compliment, and probably most importantly, seeing someone as similar to us.
This experiment just perfectly shows the power of similarity. So, you have 2 groups of negotiators. Group 1 is told, hey, time is money, get straight down to business. They only reached an agreement about 55% of the time. But the second group, they were told to first find things they had in common, just chat for a bit. Their success rate was an incredible 90%. Just by finding some genuine common ground, influence becomes almost effortless.
Okay, moving on to our second category. These are the shortcuts that are happening inside our own minds. This is all about our brain's powerful, almost desperate need to be consistent.
And that leads us right to commitment and consistency. The moment we make a decision or take a stand on something, we feel this immense internal pressure to stick with it. We just have this obsessive desire to be and to look consistent with what we've already done. It's why we sometimes stick to a bad decision just to avoid looking flaky.
This classic experiment is the perfect example of the foot-in-the-door technique. Researchers went around asking people to put a massive, really ugly "drive carefully" sign on their front lawn. As you can imagine, most people said no way. But with a different group, they tried something else. First, they asked for a tiny commitment. Would you put this little sticker in your window? A couple of weeks later, they went back and asked about the big sign. That group was 4 times more likely to say yes. That first tiny commitment paved the way for the big one.
Our next mental shortcut is social proof. You know, when we're not sure what to do, what's the first thing we do? We look around to see what everyone else is doing. Our brains basically have a rule. If a lot of people are doing something, it's probably the right thing to do. Think about choosing a restaurant based on reviews, or joining the longest line at a food truck.
But here's the crucial detail about social proof. It works best when it comes from people we see as being just like us. In the UK, the government sent out letters saying most people pay their taxes on time. It had a little effect, but when they changed the letter to say the great majority of citizens in your town pay on time, compliance went through the roof, all the way up to 83%. We're way more influenced by our neighbors than by some random stranger.
And that brings us to our third and final category, the value perception principles. These are all about the external cues our brain uses to make snap judgments about how much something is worth or who we should listen to.
From the time we're kids, we're taught to listen to authority figures, our parents, teachers, doctors, you name it. This gets hardwired into us as a mental shortcut. If someone who seems like a credible expert tells us to do something, we usually just do it without much question.
And often, it's not even the person, but the symbols of authority, like a fancy title or a uniform, that do all the convincing.
Let me just ask you a quick question to show you what I mean. Imagine you're about to have emergency surgery. You look up at the surgeon, who's about to operate on you, and they are dressed head to toe in a Santa suit. Would you feel safe?
No way, of course not. But change that one little detail, put that same person in a white lab coat with a stethoscope around their neck, and our trust is almost automatic. We don't stop to check their diploma on the wall. The uniform itself signals authority, and our brain takes the shortcut and says, okay, I trust this person.
And that brings us to our final principle, scarcity. It's so simple, but so powerful. We just want things more when we think we can't have them. Opportunities suddenly look way more valuable when their availability is limited. This is the psychology behind every limited time only offer, only 2 left in stock alert, or exclusive members only club. It taps right into our fear of missing out. This quote really nails the psychology behind scarcity. As humans, we are fundamentally more motivated by the thought of losing something than we are by the thought of gaining something of the exact same value. That's why an ad won't just tell you the benefits of a product, it will scream about what you're going to lose, the deal, the chance, if you don't buy it right now.
So look, knowing about these powerful triggers comes with a really big responsibility, right? Because there's a fine but very important line between using them for ethical persuasion and using them for outright manipulation.
Here's a really simple way to spot the difference. Ask yourself, is this a genuine gift or favor meant to build a real relationship? Or is this an unwanted gift that's only being used to make me feel like I owe them something? Here's the rule. You're socially obligated to return a favor with a favor, but you are never obligated to return a trick with a favor. So how do you actually say no? First, trust your gut. That little feeling in the pit of your stomach is often the first alarm bell that you're being pushed into a corner. Second, to escape that consistency trap, ask yourself one simple question. Knowing what I know now, would I still make this choice? If the answer is no, it's okay to back out. And finally, just remember that the crowd can be wrong. Don't be afraid to step back and think for yourself.
These 6 principles, they're not abstract ideas. They're at work all around us every single day, shaping our choices. Now that you understand them, you can not only be a more effective communicator, but you can also spot when these tactics are being used on you. So the real question is, now that you can see the hidden triggers of yes, how are you going to use them?